Hey everyone, Life Coach Carissa here. I want to ask you a question. What happens when you are going to have nothing left to give? Well, what I'm talking about is being exhausted, overwhelmed, and completely depleted. And so, for many of us, this isn't just about having a bad day, it's like a constant state of being. We feel like we're running on empty, we're always giving to everyone else. And the most painful part, we never have time for ourselves, right? So, this is a heavy price we pay for living by these unspoken rules of the good girl syndrome. And this month, we're talking all about relationships, boundaries, and letting go. And today, we're going to dive into how to break free from saying yes when we really want to say no. So, if you want to start honoring your own needs, stick around to hear more. Welcome back to my channel. This month, our theme is all about boundaries, relationships, and letting go. And today's video is titled Breaking Free from the Good Girl Syndrome. So I want to tap into a feeling that you probably know all too well: overwhelm, exhaustion, that feeling of I never have enough time for me. We often have this underlying resentment or frustration, thinking everyone else is the reason why we can't take care of ourselves. But what if the problem isn't everyone else? But it's these unspoken rules that we have inherited and continue to believe. I believe that there is like this good girl blueprint going around, right? And so from a very young age, many of us are taught that we need to be nice and agreeable and caring. Sounds harmless. We learn to put the needs of others in front of our own. And in many families, women often become the emotional givers, the ones who hold everything together. And this can often be like part of a blueprint for being a good girl. I think back to my own childhood, and I remember my mom always standing at the kitchen counter to eat. She was never even fully sitting down to rest. And I feel like it was almost as if she needed to be at the ready at a moment's notice to give someone something else, right? So she was like on call for whatever anybody else's needs were. And I think that kind of observational learning, what I took away from it, whether it was her intended meaning or not, was that it taught me how to try to be a good woman, right? You have to be constantly busy and constantly giving, and you don't really ever rest or nurture yourself. So I think that there are some key concepts why women often feel this pressure. I think there's socialization and gender roles, right? From a young age, women are often socialized to being very communal and nurturing. And, studies show on gender that girls are more likely to be praised for being agreeable and cooperative and empathetic. And that creates this powerful inherited belief that a woman's value is linked to her ability to care for and accommodate others, right? And this pressure to conform to this role can make saying no feel like a personal failure or a betrayal from one's identity. I think the second thing is that there's a fear of conflict. I think research shows consistently that women tend to have a higher fear of conflict and a stronger desire to maintain harmony in relationships. I think this is linked to our ingrained belief that we are responsible for the emotional well-being of others. And I think the perceived risk of upsetting someone or creating friction is often greater than the internal discomfort of saying yes to something that we don't want to do. I know I have felt this, and I have numerous clients that have that major fear of conflict. So that one is very, very high on the list, I think, if we were to rank them. Number 3, there's this self-worth that is tied to this external approval. I think, many psychologists point to a common pattern where a woman's self-worth becomes intertwined with her ability to earn approval and be liked. And I think it's like an unconscious belief. Every yes to a request or an obligation reinforces her sense of being a good or valuable person, while saying no is going to trigger these fears of rejection, disappointment, or maybe even being perceived as difficult. Number 4, I think there's professional expectations, right? Sometimes there's like office housework. And so I think in the workplace, these tendencies are often reinforced because studies show that workplace dynamics show to us that women are disproportionately expected to take on those non-promotable tasks like, office housework, planning parties, taking notes, monitoring others. And so I think women who say no to these tasks could be judged harshly, creating a professional and social penalty for setting boundaries. So I think this feedback loop makes it even harder to decline requests when it's related to your professional growth. Number 5, I think there's this empathy and emotional labor Some neurological and psychological research suggests that women tend to have higher average scores when it comes to empathy and emotional intelligence. And I think that can lead to a greater capacity for emotional labor, which is the management of one's own feelings and the feelings of others. And so this heightened sensitivity can make it genuinely difficult to ignore a request for help because we feel the emotional weight of another person's need. Now, I'm not saying men can't feel all of these things either, but studies have shown that women are kind of designed, by design and culture to be more in tune with those things. So I think these are just powerful factors, right? They create this pull of the subconscious to say yes. That's just going beyond kindness. It really is a complex set of behaviors that are rooted in these societal expectations, these psychological patterns, and really an ingrained belief about a woman's role in the world. And so we have to recognize the cost. When we constantly people please, we become completely disconnected from our own needs and desires. And so every single time we say yes, when our inner truth desperately wants to say no, we erode that authentic self. It's like a slow, quiet act of betrayal. And so the real cost of being a good girl is your energy, your voice, and your true self. The resentment builds, the exhaustion sets in, and it can manifest as burnout or create some deep cracks in your relationships. You just simply cannot pour from an empty cup. Your capacity for kindness, compassion, and love of others is only going to grow when you make the painful, necessary choice to nurture yourself first. And so I think that there is this inner conflict with boundaries. So, why is setting boundaries so difficult for someone that wants to follow that good girl role? I think the core fear is that we feel harsh. We tell ourselves, I don't like conflict. I don't want to have a disagreement. But the truth is, a boundary is not about conflict. It's about being able to speak your truth in a loving and compassionate way. And so I think the biggest fear is often not being accepted or thinking we're going to upset people. We're wired to want to be liked. So when we try to set a limit, we are coming from this automatic fear that we're not going to be accepted. But is that a true story? We need to start changing the narrative on this. I mean, how many times have you ever admired someone else for speaking their truth and setting these limits or boundaries for themselves? I know I have recognized it and I thought, man, I want to do more of that. That's really brave. That's being really authentic, right? So, for years, I said yes to things I truly didn't want to do. I know I put our family business first ahead of my family's needs, my own needs, which led to a lot of resentment and emotional dysregulation in my life. And it wasn't until I reached a catastrophic breaking point that I finally realized I was putting everyone else's wants and needs above the people and the things that were most important to me. And so I'm grateful for that brutal moment of transformation, because since then I've lived every day putting my authentic truth and voice above trying to just please others, because I have cultivated this true self-trust and self-worth. So everything I do now, really, it's, whether for myself or for someone else, is coming from an honest, authentic place. I'm no longer motivated by obligation or fear. And that just feels like the most beautiful freedom in the world. So I want to just give you 2 quick practical steps of how to start setting boundaries, right? If you have this habit of saying yes to things that you want to say no to, or you just want to have better boundaries, I want you to, number 1, pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to the sentences in your mind that tell you things have to look a certain way. That old inherited story that you have to be busy to be worthy. Ask yourself, is this even true to me? Because it's often just an old narrative that's like not even your own. And then number 2 is to really rewrite those beliefs. It's about changing that narrative and prioritizing your needs and reframing it that it's not selfish or bad. Because when you make your desires a priority, you can give others the most beautiful, open, authentic parts of you. It's like truly the most honest way of living. And so I think the ultimate benefit for breaking free from this good girl syndrome is the sheer freedom and contentment that it offers. When you are in tune with your inner voice, within a split second, you can know this is right for me, this isn't right for me. And it's about trusting yourself to deliver that message in a loving way. And most importantly, it's not allowing others' emotional responses to derail you or knock you off balance, right? The peace and contentment that lie on the other side of this work are on a level that you've probably just never experienced before. So, first, create some awareness around how you say yes when you really want to say no. And then pay attention to those sentences that reaffirm your habit of trying to people please everyone and ignore your own needs. Because once you see it, then you can change it. And I know you can do this, just like I have in my own life. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I hope you feel a little more equipped to start honoring your own needs and letting go of the need to people please everyone. If you are ready for more conversations on building healthy relationships and living in alignment with your true self, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be the first to know when my next video drops. And for a full roadmap on a journey like this, my book, Why Am I Like This, is available on Amazon. I will see you next time. Have a beautiful day.